Okay, hello everybody. Welcome to Securing Maritime Domain Dominance with Rapid Technology Insertion. We're going to be talking today about how the Coast Guard is invested in modern technology solutions to bring a new level, a new floor for us to deliver technology rapidly, deliver modern software, deliver sensors and fusion technology all across of our mission, 11 statutory missions. This talk is going to go through some of our force design elements. It's going to go through Coastal Sentinel. You'll learn more about that today. And we'll talk about what kind of opportunities and challenges exist moving forward. So I'm Commander Jonathan White. I'm the Cloud and Data Branch Chief for the Coast Guard. Coming this Friday, I'll be the deputy of our new software yard. So we'll be standing up our software yard, which is a software development unit that is going to be focused on delivering modern software to our mission, our coasties and our mission elements.
Hi everyone, I'm Lieutenant Commander Scott Prats. I work on the Force Design 2028 technology table. I act as the control tower in that capacity. I can get into more detail, and I will get into a little more detail later about what exactly Force Design is and what it does, but right now that is my role as far as I advise on the technology table for Force Design 2028.
I am Commander Chris Rogers. I'm the Technical Director for Coastal Sentinel. Happy to be here and talking with you all.
Hello, everyone. I'm Captain Patrick Thompson. I run for the C5I Service Center. I run all the infrastructure for the Coast Guard. So, from your perspective, it's all the networks, the cloud systems, all the data floors that we have, anything that's the core underlying infrastructure, across all of our systems that support and enable a lot of the capabilities that we're going to hear from today. All right, so I'm going to begin. I'm going to kind of maybe give a little backdrop to our journey and where we were for the last few years, and I think what you'll hear is kind of where we are today, and you'll start to understand where the opportunities are for many of you, and really where we're trying to go with some of the other gentlemen that we brought up on stage. I will kind of say that we've brought some of our best and smartest people with us today. These gentlemen are really going to transform where the Coast Guard's going over the next few years. And definitely after we speak today, take an opportunity if you're interested in what they have to say and think that your company has some opportunities that they may not be aware of. Definitely reach out to them. They're really going to be leading where we're going in the future. So I'm going to give you a little backdrop of where we were, and 4 or 5 years ago, is lieutenants and at our C5I service centers across the Coast Guard. They had all these great ideas, and they really struggled to implement them. And there was a lot of different reasons of why they struggled. Predominantly, there was a lack of underlying infrastructure, contracts, organization that would allow them to be successful. So a lot of what you found was a lot of high-performing Coast Guard officers were tending to get out of the Coast Guard. And what we've really done in the last few years is really change that entire environment in an incredible positive way. And when you hear a little bit later about force design and where we're going, I think it's really inspirational. We're really getting after a lot of the personnel challenges, our organizational challenges, our technology challenges, and our contract and acquisition challenges. And that's really where I think I'm most excited about. And I think, from what you're going to be, providing for us today, you're going to be excited about it. So I will say in the backdrop, our Coast Guard cutters, 4 or 5 years ago, even 3 years ago, did not have network capability. It was like 2 megabytes down. It was a trickle. If there's a reason, there was almost there was so lack of data throughput that why develop an app for those Coast Guard cutters, because they really couldn't even use it, right? So there was, if you think about it, like they didn't have the ability to have wireless anything on board. So they didn't have mobile devices like all of us have today. We couldn't even navigate this conference without having a mobile device telling us where our plans were, where our things were. Can you imagine trying to navigate the complexities of an operational environment where things are ever changing, but you don't have that data at your fingertips? Almost all of those things have changed through the P-LEO satellite constellations that have been routed out. The Starlink, Starshield, the OneWebs, all the Amazon's version. All these things are coming to fruition right now in this future, and we have them on 220 of our Coast Guard cutters today. It's not only can our Coast Guard cutters conduct operations way better than they were in the past, but they can also download the patches and updates that they need to be cyber secure. They can call home to their families and say goodnight to their kids. They can get medical care from doctors, from afar. We actually had an incident where someone got like a nail in their eye, which is, an event, and so they brought in doctors on camera telling the health technicians on board how to stabilize the eye so the person could get medevaced off, and they were back to the ship and working like it never happened before 2 weeks later. All through this technology that we've been able to put out today that's really exciting and new. But what I'm most excited about is not where we are now, but where we're really going. And so we have mobile devices on board today. We have our first ship that actually, the Coast Guard is its own cell phone provider. When we're underway, we actually are broadcasting and provide cell phone connectivity for our cuttermen underway in the ships, inside the ship and also outside. We actually have sector antennas on the mast where we can actually become our own cell phone provider locally for different operations. This is really transformative, and being able to use these mobile devices allows our personnel to be able to do things that they were not able to do before, just from a communications point of view. But really what it does, it provides this platform where all these applications and modernizations are now possible. That's really where we're most excited. We've started this low-code, no-code Coast platform. So we call it the Coast Decoder initiative. What it allows is for these personnel to kind of develop apps, because those people are there, they call them like the need knowers, right? They've been out in the field, they know the problems, but now they can help develop an app to solve them, so they don't have some of the, what I call someone goes out to the field and they have a paper form and they write down all this stuff in the form, and then they wait till they come back and then they type in that information from the paper form. And then, it's not really how modern day operates. It's not how all of you operate today in your business lives. And it's not how we want to operate. We want to be fast and capable and responsive. And these kind of new technologies are really going to allow that. The third leg, with the end user devices, the communications, and really the last part is this cloud enablement platform, is that we've been working, Commander White in particular has been working very hard to develop a suite of applications on Azure and AWS and these cloud platforms that are going to allow us to modernize much quicker than we were in the past. We have struggled with app modernization for years, and a lot of it's culminating to a head right now because of the zero trust mandates. We will never be able to get to those zero trust mandates as fast and responsive as we're trying to without having these modern development platforms to build off of. So we're really at this culmination point where we spent the last couple of years building out the security tools, building out the environments. We're done now, and we've just onboarded maybe 10 or 15 apps, and we're really excited to bring in hundreds more, right? And that's really what the launch pad from which we are set to go from. At this point, what's most exciting though is that we've got this administration that has come in with Force Design 28, with this influx of money. They've opened up the doors for our capability. It is the most exciting time that I think in our generation to be part of the Coast Guard and to really build upon this baseline, foundation that we've set for the last few years to really deliver to the end users the technologies that they expect. I quoted a line a long time ago for mobile devices, and that the Coast Guard needed to have, every user should have a mobile device because it allows them to make use of downtime. Making use of, we used to have bridge inspectors that would drive to work, download a whole bunch of paper documents, drive over to the bridge, do the bridge inspection, write down all the information, and then drive on back to their work address, type in all the information, and then drive back to their home at the end of the night. They're missing soccer practice, there's more traffic, things are weird and awkward, plus the data doesn't get into the database for 24 hours later, right? We've changed that now, is that they just leave their homes, they go straight to do the bridge inspection, they fill it out on their mobile device, they're typing it in, it's live. They take a picture with the mobile device, it's instantly updated. It's a whole different world, and we want to take that kind of quick win that we're able to do now and use our Force Design initiative to really get those urgent action and urgent wins that we're so desired for the future. So I'm gonna pause now. I'm gonna probably hand it off to our next guest.
So I'll take what Captain Thompson elaborated, or I'll take what Captain Thompson said and I'll elaborate on a little bit to kind of add some more information on what generally Force Design 2028 is designed to do. So effectively, the Commandant directed the senior leaders of the Coast Guard to make sweeping changes to multiple facets of the organization to prepare the Coast Guard for larger amounts of funding as well as more capability and to meet the needs of the American public in the future. So there's really 4 kind of main enablement areas that the Coast Guard Force Design 2028 area focuses on, which is the people, the organization, the contracting and acquisition, and the technology components of the Coast Guard. So each of those 4 enabling components of the Coast Guard are led by senior leaders, and they stand up, we refer to as a table, and on that table are senior leaders who are controllers of that space. So the technology table has a CIO, the Chief Data Officer, a lot of the key players for delivering technology to the Coast Guard for the future. So I work as a control tower on the technology table, which my role is effectively to communicate directly with the Secretary's office as well as the Commandant's staff to make sure that we understand the needs of the service and the general broad direction of the service, and I bring that to the tables to make sure that all the bureaucratic processes are being overcome quickly and we can deliver the capabilities that we need very rapidly. A lot of the other pieces of Force Design that were looked at, or a lot of the other problems that Force Design was designed to solve, was really that decision-making authority was very high in the organization, and it created some longer decision timelines than the Coast Guard should accept for future operations. So a lot of the Force Design effort is to restructure the organization, push down the decision-making authority to the edge where operators can be trusted to make those decisions to support operations much more rapidly. My role is working directly on the technology table with Admiral Hickey, who is the lead of the technology table, who's the CIO of the Coast Guard. And we're basically working in lockstep with the C5I Service Center, now to be named the C5I PEO, to deliver a lot of those modern technologies to the Coast Guard. So this is the Coastal Sentinel. This is looking at some of those legacy systems that the Coast Guard has maintained for decades and modernizing them to create a comprehensive data environment, looking at the way that we deliver software applications and making sure that Commander White, when he takes over the software yard, is able to rapidly deploy software to meet the Coast Guard's needs without having to go through lengthy processes and can actually deliver capability at the speed that technology needs to be delivered at for the Coast Guard to operate well. So I'll turn it over to Commander Rogers here.
Yeah, sure. Well, saving the specifics of what is Coastal Sentinel really for the next slide, I think it's important to understand context, and I want to kind of continue on and build on what Captain Thompson had mentioned and sort of motivate Coastal Sentinel a little bit. The simple fact is that the Coast Guard's existing C2 systems and really many of our systems exist in silos. They're not integrated. They don't the data doesn't flow between them very well. A lot of times this is very manual. We lack also the ability to comprehensively sense the EEZ out to the EEZ, to share data between assets on the edge, to bring that data back to be able to analyze it and infer some kind of information from it, and then ultimately to make a decision on it, and then key piece to deliver that decision out and back to the tactical edge for some kind of action. The stovepipe systems, the problem is pervasive. It prevents our very expensive, exquisite manned assets from being of limited use in terms of their ability to be tactical sensors. You can imagine the sensor operator sitting in front of a screen on a cutter will have access to all of the data locally to that asset, but that data is not being pushed back to the enterprise at scale. And if it were, I'm not confident that in current state we'd be able to do much with it. It'd be this huge volume of data that absent some other layer to make sense of that data in order to ultimately provide some value, to enable a decision, to enable some kind of action to be taken on that data. So I guess what I'll leave with is Coastal Sentinel can be thought of as not a single ISR system, really. What it is an integration of many different things. It's an interdependent set of capabilities, ultimately with the goal of delivering the Coast Guard decision advantage. And with that in mind, one can think about Coastal Sentinel as the Coast Guard's implementation of CJAD C2. What we're trying to do is, collapse decision cycles, close kill chains, if you will, rapidly progress through our OODA loops, and ultimately we deliver our operators that competitive advantage so we can outmaneuver our adversary. I think what's exciting for me and all of us up here as IT professionals is that what we're talking about, these subjects, is that there is a recognition within our service that IT is no longer that thing that supports the business, but it's the thing that underpins everything that we do. Every mission that we have is enabled by IT, and so that's why it is so exciting and such an exciting time for the Coast Guard.
So yeah, I'm going to pick up where Scott left off on the force design development. So I was part of the force design planning team, wrote a lot of the technology action items that you're seeing on this slide right now. And when I looked at the Coast Guard and really evaluated, I did like a meta-analysis of where are the issues that we're trying to tackle here. And a lot of it was very organizational, right? So it's Conway's Law, right? Your organization really defines your IT, and your IT becomes your organization. So if you have I would say, somewhat of a dysfunctional relationship with that organization and IT, it transcends the entire framework. And so one of the key aspects that I really wanted the Coast Guard to invest in, and we're realizing that right now, is the establishment of a centralized software delivery element. Right, so that if you think about how the DoD or DoW has gone about this, they create software factories. They're spread across the country. They're focused on very specific, sometimes maybe too specific software delivery patterns. The Coast Guard really is a singular entity type service, right? We need one thing to do the scope of our 11 statutory missions. We don't really have enough people to have like 3 or 4 software factories. So the vision here was to establish what we're calling the software yard. It's a play off words on a shipyard. Right, so instead of building ships, we're going to build software. And the key aspect of that is to do it at scale in a centralized fashion. Right, so right now we do software very horizontally, which doesn't really lend itself very well to value stream management. There's a lot of overlap that happens. There's different business processes that people might be following. A lot of over-the-fence type activities. So if an acquisition entity was building software or acquiring software, then it would be foisted upon the sustainment community, and there's usually a puzzle fit problem there, right? So they built it over here in the expectation that it would fit into the enterprise over here, and it doesn't, right? And so 2 steps occurred. We created the PEO structure, which blended the acquisition and sustainment communities together. That piece is completed. The second piece to that is restructuring that PEO so that we can deliver on those lines of effort that we're really trying to go after at Force Design. And one of those lines of effort is to really focus on DevSecOps as a strategic enabler, right? We're not doing Agile to go fast. We're doing Agile to iterate our way to a more perfect solution for our mission operators. The operational community is very much involved in the flow of work as we develop and deliver software. That goes all the way from COTS products to custom developed solutions. We're trying to blend the middle piece there. We're trying to stick more for COTS and for low-code platforms. It enables speed of movement really quickly. You can do iterative design. You can do experimental design, as I like to call it, throwaway software, right? So not everything needs to have permanence, but some things actually need to be delivered really quickly. And maybe you don't want to spend a lot of time and money on it and then seek a more perfect solution later on. Also, building in that end user experience, customer experience and developer experience are 2 key enablers that we're trying to look for. So building in the software yard, it's not just about having a team of developers. It's about having a structure of solution architects, UX designers, really looking at the people aspect, the change management aspect. We have over 100 apps in the Coast Guard. That's a lot of people, a lot of touch points that we need to extract from their current way of doing business as we give them the new thing, right? There's going to be a lot of cultural change friction that we're going to have to deal with. So there's a lot of this soft touch stuff that we're really looking at as well when it comes to software development and delivery, looking for you guys to help us modulate that. We're not good at soft touch, right? We need some help in that space. We need some help with marketing, with logo, branding, development, sales. There's internal sales for software. One of my key principles in delivering IT to the Coast Guard is I don't want to deliver IT to the user, I want to deliver it for the user. And that means bringing them along for the ride, right? They should choose what I deliver because it's awesome, right? It really makes their life easy. So on the data and AI front, we're looking for really robust AI integration. I'm talking like you don't even know the AI is there. It's just doing your work for you, okay? When you're in the app, you are querying directly and telling the AI how you want to have the context that you're working with right now. Tell me to solve this problem, and I'm going to analyze that solution and accept it or reject it. It needs to be through the flow, through the case management flow, elicit information from disparate cases, perhaps. Hey, what's related to this? Surface some more information about this vessel. Surface some more information about this human, this person, right? Right now, that's a very we rely on the person to do that work, right? We want to push that over to the artificial intelligence side. We want to build robust APIs. The Coast Guard doesn't have any APIs. You can't do AI and you can't do microservice architecture without APIs. So we need to build APIs for the Coast Guard. We want to do graph APIs. We want to do knowledge graphs. We want to do all sorts of things. We need your expertise in that. We want to do real-time sharing. We have tons of mission partners. If you don't realize, the Coast Guard actually is a DOW and a DHS-driven organization. We have to share data with all of those partners, and we share data with DOJ and other entities as well. And then visualization, data is useless if the operator can't understand what that data is representing to them. So that's not just like dashboards, right? This is about contextualizing the information, presenting it to the people in their context, making sure they can understand what the relevance of that information is in the time of need. So this transcends down to the C2 layer and down to the mission operators and the edge. And then the last piece is zero trust. There's a hard deadline, September 2027. If you're not meeting zero trust requirements, lights out. We have 100 apps that we need to meet zero trust requirements. There's probably 50 more apps that we need to develop that don't exist today that are going to organically meet zero trust. That's a lot of work between now and September 2027. So looking for shortcuts, right? Looking to step function our way to zero trust. We need a lot of help on the apps domain, which is part of the software yard. We need a lot of help on the data domain. That's classification, discovery, rights management, data loss prevention. And we need a lot of help on automation. So a lot about zero trust is moving security into a data focus. Well, what do you do with that data? That data is supposed to drive the SOC. Well, the SOC is a very limited entity. We have probably 15, 20 people running our SOC, right? They don't have time to manage all this information, right? You need to present them with solutions that they can click through and make actions in the field to stop an attack scenario. And then, of course, there's disconnected operations. The Coast Guard operates all over the world. We have edge assets everywhere, and we need to bring our zero trust on board those assets. So in a DDIL environment or in a contested environment, we still need to be able to operate what is on those assets. We need to be able to secure the information that's on there and not have to rely on backhaul for everything.
All right. So on the screen, you'll see a high-level depiction of what is Coastal Sentinel. So it's many different things, many different components of it. Starting on the left with sensors. As you'll see, as the goal is to establish a maritime domain dominance, let's first bring in the actual picture. What is heighten our awareness? What is out there in the maritime domain? So with sensors, I'm interested in all domains across the electromagnetic spectrum, multimodality. It's understanding what's going on out beyond the contiguous zone, out to the outer edges of our extended continental shelf. So the problem is vast. Moving on, as you tick to the right, with tactical communications and networks, it's bringing that sensor data from where it is back into the enterprise. It's that backhaul of data. We must be able to operate, as Commander White points out, on a completely green day and in perhaps a DDIL type setting. We need to operate in both extremes, full motion video when we can send it, and being able to continue our operations if cut from our primary means of connectivity in order to continue the mission. So as you see, PACE, primary, alternate, contingency, and emergency PACE, the term is very important for us when we think about employing and delivering capabilities within Coastal Sentinel. We need to consider not only the primary communications paths, but alternate communications paths and resilient ones as well. And as we progress further along the arc, we get into the data engineering and management side. It's bringing that the data, from the sensor, communicated through whatever pipeline into a place where we can collect it and then analyze it, which is really the next part. But make it expose it to the rest of the enterprise so that it's we can derive value from it. At the base of the loop is ACT. This is where we have our visualization and tasking. So this is the key part. Why are we doing this? This whole loop. This is the reason. So it's taking that data that has been aggregated. Some analytics been performed, so we can have some inferences based on that data. It could be example of you have an EOIR camera that's spots a target. Maybe that is fused with an AIS track, fused with a radar track. We have something here with analytics. Maybe we're flagging things for pattern of life or other ways, other means of providing inference that we should probably go interdict that vessel. And then now at the very base here, when we go to visualize this, the goal is single pane of glass. It's presenting the information to the operator in a way that they can easily digest it. It's the right information to the right user, right classification level, so that they can take action. And again, the action piece, very critical here, because if they just have the awareness, it stops there. But what we're going for, our target is maritime domain dominance, and that's taking action to affect the mission outcome. And so for the operator in a command center, for example, that's being able to maybe, as Commander White points out again, with these kind of analytics, it's having recommended courses of action based on some contextual data, asset information, crew readiness information, training information, and what is going on with the mission, presented to the operator for concurrence or non-concurrence, hitting a button, and having that mission plan sent out to the assets, machine to machine. The search pattern, the intercept information goes right to the plotter, the station can launch, and everything is seamless. Versus the reality today, this is done with a lot of note taking, a lot of phone calls, maybe some emails. It's very manual and very time intensive. Very much so human in the loop. We want to remove the human from loops that need to be automated or made more expedient with current technology. And so, spending a little, I guess I'll close on this diagram. With the three bubbles at the bottom to try and give you some more information on why those are there, what are we looking at. And this is to represent your tactical, operational, and strategic levels of view. And so we talk about resiliency, and this is very important for the tactical picture. It's being able to be locally resilient. At the sector or on board the asset, we want to be able to control sensors, of course, view that sensor data. That sensor data needs to be very timely. We need to be able to do interdiction type recommendations based on this sensor data. And again, it has to be locally resilient. So if the sector is disconnected, to be able to still continue operations in that state. And then feeding that information up to the higher echelon common operating picture, where you'd have this available, maybe fused with some other contextual information, which I spoke about, like logistics information, maybe image chips from commercial databases, or time-late information that we wouldn't necessarily want to push down to the tactical edge, but would be of value at the strategic level. And so we have these three different views. They all coincide. Again, it's pulling data from the tactical edge up to the strategic level, and then ultimately pushing data back down to the tactical edge, what we need, or what the operators need anyhow, so that they can take actions, make decisions, and affect mission outcomes. And I guess I close, I think the theme of Coastal Sentinel, and I hope the diagram, along with the voice track conveys it, is that really the value to our organization of Coastal Sentinel is not necessarily the things, it's not necessarily the sensors themselves, those are important, not the platforms. Really the value that we're delivering our operators is going to come from the integration of those things. And with that, back over to you, John.
Scott's going to tell us a little bit about some of our recent successes in prototyping some of our Coastal Sentinel ideas.
Sure. So about 3 or 4 months ago, the CIO of the Coast Guard in the technology table for Force Design 2028 tasked the C5I PEO C5I, and the Raptor team, which is our rapid prototyping group that kind of spun off of Force Design 2028, to identify technologies that could be deployed to the edge to kind of create a tactical enterprise bridge so that the tactical operators at the edge that don't necessarily have the luxury of a large backhaul into the Coast Guard's network, into the DODIN. You have your ship scenario where the ship has a bunch of sensors. We've now, Captain Thompson was talking about it, we've done all that work on the cutter platforms to be able to backhaul data into the Coast Guard network. And that is an exercise in network configuration, IoT device security, and some network analysis. So I think from the cutter perspective, we're not very far off from being able to provide sensor information from the edge to the enterprise. So what the CIO tasked the Raptor and PEO C5I with a couple months back was look at the San Diego op area. There are assets out in the op area that are not necessarily on a large platform that is well networked. They might be on a jet ski, for instance, or they might be on a small boat 20 miles offshore. So, and they might only have a dirty Starlink connection. They might not have CG1. So really what we looked at was trying to figure out how do we take a tactical situation that doesn't have the luxury of a national security cutter's backhaul network and say, how do we get a guy on a jet ski, how do we get that user data to the edge immediately? How do we take the data from that user and stream the real-time body camera footage back into the enterprise so that somebody who might be sitting in a command center can watch and understand what that operation looks like, or even higher, right, to like the commandant's office to be able to understand the missions that are going on in the Coast Guard. So what we ended up looking at was this tactical enterprise bridge. A lot of the tactical communication and tactical products out there were spun out of necessity, not really spun out of like zero trust in mind and enterprise IT networking. So what we took was, what we noticed was that a lot of the tactical teams that historically have been doing kind of IT on their own for many years because the products don't integrate well with the network, with enterprise IT, with centralized management. We kind of looked at it and said, like, what is it that you guys are doing out there? And can we try to make a product or a technology stack that we can provide you that allows you to, in a disconnected state, do some compute, in a dirty internet connected state, backhaul your data into CG1 without having to lug around like a server rack. So what we ended up doing was looking at the San Diego op area and trying to use multiple sensors. We had multiple UAVs in the air. We had multiple autonomous vessels. We had multiple shoreside cameras. We had operators on jet ski. We had a large tactical assault kit, team awareness kit presence, and we were able to basically deploy an edge appliance to the San Diego op area that was able to provide a connection between a mesh network that was deployed out at that area and then also backhaul that into the Coast Guard's network using some of the technology Captain Thompson's team's been working on as far as SD-WAN appliances. And so we're kind of meeting those zero trust requirements while also allowing those tactical operators to kind of continue to operate the way that they've always operated, which is do what they need to do, have excellent connectivity, be able to locally communicate, share those dots on the map with each other, but also take those dots on the map and share them to the greater Coast Guard, which is something that we haven't really been able to do before. So as we look at Coastal Sentinel and where that's going to likely move in a technology area, we're looking at kind of expanding that concept to say we can have a sensor anywhere, right? We can have a UAS from a commercial vendor that meets our requirements. And the question is how quickly can we take that sensor and integrate it into the Coast Guard? And if we can do that in the matter of weeks, that is a huge win, right? A novel sensor taking weeks to integrate, arguably faster in many cases with kind of the stack we're looking at. That's where we need to get to. So that's why when Commander Rogers talks about Coastal Sentinel, it's it's not about the sensors per se. It's about having this modular interface where new sensors come out every day, better cameras come out every day, better drones come out every day, and we're going to be plugging and playing sensors for decades. So making sure that we have this modular, robust suite of capabilities to be able to integrate a terrestrial camera, satellite data, a drone, that's really going to be where Coastal Sentinel sits from a capability perspective. So the demonstration took place in February, and basically what we were able to demonstrate was we had a jet ski operator, two hands on the controls, driving around the ocean at 3 in the morning, and we have overhead assets that are able to use EOIR cameras to identify individuals also on jet skis trying to enter the United States, and the air assets are able to identify, tag those assets, and pass that information visually to an operator on a jet ski. So we were able to basically use an augmented reality product to overlay the location of the target of interest so that the jet ski operator wasn't getting vectored in historically over a radio, right? Like, imagine you have a drone flying and a guy on a jet ski, and they're basically doing verbal commands to vector a jet ski in at 3 in the morning, right? It's not a scalable way or a way that we should continue to operate, and we were basically tasked, hey, this is a new use case, this whole jet ski thing was very new, and then it was, hey, can we deliver a solution that makes this way better, way safer, way more effective so that we can adequately secure that maritime boundary line between the San Diego op area and Mexico there. So I think we saw a lot of success with that project. And that kind of paradigm of modularity, quick sensor integration is going to be rapidly scaled to the CONUS United States and OCONUS in some situations to be able to provide that tactical edge and sensor integration rapidly to the Coast Guard.
Thank you, Scott. And Captain Thompson's going to close out our presentation side, talking about our opportunities and challenges, and recapping anything that he wanted to talk about regarding our presentation, and then we're going to leave some time for questions as well.
All right, I've changed my ideas of what I'm going to talk about right now. So, hailing from a family of professors and professional librarians, I'm going to give you guys a homework assignment and maybe a lesson of my 30 years in the Coast Guard. I've been on the board of AFCEA and many other organizations, and I'm going to kind of frame my comments from that. Is that when you hear about what we're doing here, what we're really trying to do is collapse the time when technology comes out and then the government, specifically the Coast Guard, adopts that technology. It's been 8 or 10 or more years in the past where that technology came out, and finally we got around to taking it on. I'm seeing a few of my classmates and retirees out there. In our personal lives, I can tell you that I was on a Windows computer for quite a while, and even a Macintosh computer. When I actually went on my first Coast Guard ship, we were on CTOS. That you might not recognize that. That's the predecessor to DOS. There's I didn't understand what that was, and I had to take out a book to read it and understand and backtrack. That's a failure, right? There should be the timeline between technology is mature enough for us to use it and we actually adopting it needs to get shorter and shorter and shorter. And really what we've done with increasing these underlying technologies to provide a foundation so that new stuff, like Scott just walked you down that path, can really go out there in weeks and not years anymore. So I'll kind of go back to AFCEA and why I think it's so important is that it really brings us together in these environments to talk about these ideas, and it really in a way that other organizations don't. So when we finish this, or through your questions, or you can find us afterwards, helping us to understand what's available and out there is incredibly important for us to understand what we can invest in, how we can bring in that technology, how we can shrink that timeline. There's a lot of different organizations, IEEE, ISE Squared, the DEF CON, Black Hat kind of things. I've been on the board. I founded many of those organizations. And the Maritime Village, if you ever go out to DEF CON, is one of the ones I founded. ISE Squared in Northern Virginia, we got that one going. So my homework assignment to you is don't just participate in the crowd in these kind of organizations, is find out which one that you think you can add value to and join it, support it, help organize it, help bring in speakers. Those things are incredibly important, and they don't just happen in a vacuum. There's an entire team of volunteers that come together to make these things happen, and really try to find, what is your niche and how can you help out. The Simon Sinek, my favorite book, Justifying the Why, is trying to bring that timeline in, right? And if you can find out that niche, if you can create a relationship that didn't happen before, maybe there's an opportunity there. There may not be, but if you try, I guarantee you, I've heard every single one of these conferences, I've been able to bring in some technology into the Coast Guard that has had a transformational effect on how we do business. We bringing in mobile devices and actually having the full office suite on there, bringing in the cellular technology. I think I came out to this event 3 years ago. I heard about a cellular technology that we could actually get the spectrum for. We could actually put on the ship and actually could be cyber secure and meet all of our DoD requirements. That's being installed right now. There's always some tidbit I get from each one of these conferences that has a huge impact on our ability to go from concept to reality and shrink that timeline. And I think that's really the most exciting part of why we're here and why we came to present what we're working on. But thank us.
So yeah, I'd like to just recap what we've discussed, because I know we got some new people who showed up a little late, so that's fine. Welcome. So basically, what we have done in the last 4 years is created a new technology floor for the Coast Guard, okay? Our floor was like lower level 3 before. I think we're at ground level right now, right? We are at parity with the state of the market that's out there for cloud data, and artificial intelligence is coming a little bit. And then we're also at the state of the market for application development in terms of tools, okay? So new ground floor, which is great. I'm building a high rise, okay? So there's a lot more floors left to build, right? That's where you guys come in substantially. Certainly part of these opportunities and challenges, focus areas. Let's talk about focus areas. Coastal Sentinel, major focus area. It's a portfolio. Think of it as sensors, processing, decisions, actions. Where do you fit in the spectrum of Coastal Sentinel? Maybe you bridge, right? Maybe you talk about a bridging strategy there, but it's more than just taking data and making a new presentation of that data, right? That's not the success that we're looking for. We're looking for informing the operator at the end of the cycle there on maybe a potential mission package options based on all of the data that's in their AOR and potentially in the databases that we have as well, right? There's batch data, and giving them actual mission package solutions that they can evaluate and decide to implement. And when they implement it, it's tasked to the downstream entities, whether that's an autonomous vehicle, a helicopter, an aircraft, a cutter, or a confluence of all of those things. That's Coastal Sentinel. And then you talk about software development and modernizing software. It's not about writing code. It's about delivering a new experience for the operators. It's about listening to what they want. It's about minimizing the portfolio of software. We don't want 1,000 apps out there all doing their own little thing, right? We want high integration. We want high value delivery. And then when you think about zero trust that underpins all of this stuff, there's a disparity there where we need to do it for the enterprise, but we also need to do it for the edge. And those are two different solutions, but they need to complement and work with each other as well. So it's a very, very challenging environment to work in. And lastly, data feeds, which is one of my favorite topics. We operate a lot on internal data right now in the Coast Guard. And we really want to increase our commercial data presence, right? You guys have invested millions of dollars in sensing the world, whether that's the radio spectrum, image spectrum. We talk about audio detection and processing, video feeds, whatever. You guys are collecting tons of information. We want to tap right into that feed. And ideally, maybe a little post-processed, right? Give us some value insight into the data that you're delivering to us. And we want to bring that in. We want to incorporate that with our internal data as well. So that's a good synopsis of where we're at. We got about 15 minutes left. Love to get some questions from the audience. Don't be shy. Come on up to the mic.
Hi, I'm Leslie Eccles with Accenture. I know under the Big Beautiful Act that Coast Guard was allocated billions of dollars. For technology, has there been any of that carved out, or is that a separate?
Yeah, so question is on the reconciliation package, the big beautiful bill. Coast Guard got roughly $25 billion in that. How much is allocated to technology? So technology transcends the entire package there, right? So there's provisions for aircraft, there's provision for helicopters, for cutters, shore infrastructure. Every single piece of that bill is technology underlaid. There is provisions for specific technology insertions and activities there, but the goal here is to, if I'm going to deliver 10 more cutters, those cutters are all going to have a substantial tech package on them, which also means you need a substantial enterprise backhaul capability to manage that tech package. And you need on-asset technology to manage it when they're disconnected as well. So I would say look at it as what portion of each asset that I'm going to deliver is also going to deliver additional technology solutions to the enterprise. Anybody else want to answer that?
I would just add to that and I don't have the exact number exactly. I think it is in the bill. It does say like this much to like depot level O&M modernization, or not modernization, but depot level stuff. But one of the things that the force design team talks about, and that the senior leaders in the Coast Guard talk about, is how this first OB3 reconciliation was kind of the first seed funding for the Coast Guard to truly meet its future objectives. So the Coast Guard is looking at continuing to receive additional funds to meet its objectives, and that baseline funding, while obviously changed a lot of things positively in the Coast Guard, we're looking at continuing to increase the Coast Guard's funding to meet a lot of those additional objectives, because the Coast Guard's needs are becoming more and more apparent with recent events going on, and the Coast Guard succeeding in those events is demonstrating, I think, to the public that they are getting their money's worth out of the Coast Guard, and that continued investment in the Coast Guard is extremely important, and that the returns from future investment will also be very obvious to the American public.
Joe?
Hey, good morning. Thanks for your remarks this morning. I agree with Captain Thompson. Probably a never more exciting time to be part of the Coast Guard than under Force Design 2028. I always thought I might volunteer to put the uniform back on if I could get on a fast response cutter, but the jet ski position here in San Diego sounds pretty attractive. Hey, John, for you specifically, as you talk about the software yard, I know there's been a big emphasis on low code. There's also a saying that low code is the equivalent of high interest credit card debt in terms of sacrificing speed for long-term technical debt. So what is your vision really for using DevSecOps and developing secure, scalable platforms to do real app modernization within the Coast Guard? I know you've talked about integration and verticals, but as you look to consolidate some of these applications, how are you really going to get after it? One question, and then are you aligning with the Navy's policy on containerization for software applications so that you can deploy those in DDoS environments? Thanks.
Yes, thank you for that question. And you're absolutely correct, right? So you're aligning yourself with platforms, right? And platforms are license costs, their ongoing sustainment. You're locked into their particular development patterns. But I think the true gold here is the data, right? The app is really a portal. It's really an interface experience, right? It's what we do beyond the app. We're collecting information, we're processing that information, we're sharing it across the organization. So if you can build a really good experience, which in my mind is transferable, right? That experience should be transferable amongst platforms, or even in a custom development, you want to use a React app, for example, right? You should be able to know what your exit cost is on the app experience level. But there's no exit cost for data, right? That underpins the organization. And if you don't do your data right and you don't share your data right, what you do up here is quite meaningless. And I think that's what we've realized in our legacy application portfolio, right, our data is locked in those apps. And only recently have we unlocked that, because we pulled that data into our data fabric, and we're creating data products off of that. We're capstoning that with some APIs and then making it available to other consumers. So I'm a little less concerned about vendor lock-in. I'd rather trade speed for lock, but I also need to be cognizant of that exit strategy or the other options in our portfolio. So we've done two things. We've institutionalized cloud as an enterprise service, and we're recently going to institutionalize low-code platforms as an enterprise service. Platforms, right? That's plural, right? And that also includes our DevSecOps factory, which we call Herman, which is a launch point for deploying into those cloud environments, into the containerized solutions, and into the low-code platforms. So you have one place where you're doing coordinated development work, and you have full awareness of the code space there, but you have multiple landing spots for that capability. So I'm hoping that we can evolve that sort of conversation into what is the best platform or best option for this particular mission package. And then we'll invest there with an option to maybe move somewhere else in the future.
Hey, good morning, everyone. Thank you. I was hoping to learn more about timelines as it relates to Coastal Sentinel. Can you guys hear me okay?
You gotta go really close.
Okay, great. Sorry. I hate microphones. I was hoping to learn a little bit more about timelines related to Coastal Sentinel. I know with systems of systems projects, it's a lot of lines of effort at once. And I'd like to learn more about, maybe priorities, how we get in contact with you for solutions offerings, or just to learn more in general.
I can start off a little bit. Yeah. So the way that we on this team we did a lot of contracting in the past was we would put out the RFI, RFP. We'd go through this kind of slow rolled process, and eventually that is still there's still aspects where that's happening, and we're trying to target that for more niche products and services. For more what I call like business IT, we're trying to transfer that work to more of the GSA vehicles. So the Maverick and Sentinel are two of the key ones that we're on. I think there's a couple aspects that are really good for us. One is that they have these 30-day mod cycles where every 30 days we're meeting with them and we want to add some things in, we want to take some things out, and we're constantly working, which is the modification cycle before, we hoped it would be done in 6 months. It usually was 8 or 12. I mean, it just wasn't going to be able to keep up with the rate of technology and the rate of adoption that we really desired. So number one was their mod cycle is great. So that's one reason why we want to go to them. Another aspect is we can actually bring different companies onto that vehicle. So there's opportunities for all of you that, like, if you think you have something that's really great for us, you reach out to us. We have an opportunity to add you on to Sentinel or Maverick or one of those other GSA vehicles that post award, right? So that's an amazing opportunity. Like, as we see, there's some company that has some unique skill that we're seeking for. We have a way to bring those companies in, and that's a great thing. So the agility of the mod cycle, the ability to bring in those niche companies and capabilities is great, and that's really why we're moving towards those for what I call commodity IT. Obviously, if there is a very niche thing, a very specific radio direction finder technology that is not quite out there right now, we're going to put out an RFP and try to develop something new. But that's really where we're focusing now, and that change was only made in November. So we're really just beginning the process of onboarding people. We've already gone through 3 or 4 mod cycles already, and it's amazing how fast that can work. But it really allows us to be agile and responsive. So like the story that Commander Scott Pratt told earlier about, we were able to, like, he said, hey, I want this thing. We were able to bring it right in. And like 30 days later, they're down in San Diego and they're doing it, right? And that's something that was never capable before. Like we would have to gone through requirements generation process. We put it out. It would have been like 2 years later, and that's not where we are. We're trying to be agile and responsive in a way that we have never been before, and those vehicles are really allowing us to do that. So many thanks to GSA for setting them up. They were given some new capabilities that they authorities that they didn't have before a couple of years ago, and we're really trying to exploit those now.
Great. Thank you.
If I can build on that a little bit. So what we described in San Diego, that's increment 1. the vision is to go to each of our different sector AORs and deliver our Coastal Sentinel capability out there. And so the question becomes, what questions do our what questions do our operators have that are left unanswered? What are those things specific to those domains that they need sensor data they need to make decisions on ultimately? And so part of this is, as we go to each of these different AORs, is building this menu of capabilities that we can quickly insert with this. And again, as Commander Prats spoke to, modularity is very important. We want to be able to insert technology. I think I reflect often on this question of are we ever done with Coastal Sentinel? I mean, yes, we'll be fully delivered at some point very soon. However, our adversary has a vote. As we get very good at interdicting in a certain AOR, we fully expect a change of tactic. And so we too need to adapt our technology, our sensors, our outlay of C5I in order to meet that threat and counter it. And so with that, next question.
Hey, how's it going? My name's Ali. Question is, I hear data, acceleration of data ingestion / making sense of data, also sensor data, so data, but acceleration means AI. What is the plan for that? Timelines, thoughts? When are we able to use data AI, compliant AI with the data?
I think Commander White can get more into how we're going to use data, but to answer the kind of the phasing for this, right, is the first step what was Captain Thompson's starting point, which was deliver the enterprise networking capability to get the data where it needs to go. We're currently now at the cool sensors at the edge. Let's deploy those and let's figure out how to ingest that data. And then I think what we're right on the cusp of is beginning that. How do we want to actually backbone the tactical data, right? Right now today we have a data fabric and we're doing a lot with data, but for the Coastal Sentinel effort, it's kind of, we're in this phase of okay, we're kind of figuring out how to ingest data from remote sites. We got sensors in play. Now let's figure out data. So I think in the next 6 months, you're going to start to see some more solidified information regarding how we want to process that tactical data as we kind of start to expand this capability, because we just got our first tactical data into the network, into the data fabric, in the last month. So it's going to be a process of scaling sensors and scaling edge compute and scaling the backhaul of data. And then I'll pass it off to Commander White on how we're actually managing and processing that data to serve it up to the application layer.
Yeah, so this is like the hidden secret about data, right? It's a humongously human-driven process, right? You have there's like 3 or 4 different problems there, right? One is you need domain expertise on the data, especially if it's from a particular application or data set that's germane to a very boutique community, right? You need data engineers and scientists who can pull that information apart, put it back together again, structure it in features for AI training, right? And then there's the AI scientist who actually does the training, conducts all the experimentations, tries to find the right fits and models and everything else that they're trying to do with that. And then the last piece is delivering that to the edge, right? You're not even done yet, right? You have to deliver that model in situ where you have inferencing happening and you're able to take in the sensor feed, do the processing, get the result. And then what do you do with that result? That's an event, right? That's a trigger. That's something that you want to deliver somewhere, right? So you got to feed that back into the data fabric piece. So when I look at this, I look at more of it as a continuum that really needs to be invested in on all spectrums, right? It's not just good enough to build an AI model, right? It's not just good enough to hire a bunch of data engineers to build data products, right? You have to invest in every single aspect of this, and it's a continuous investment. Ideally, you can lower the human element of this after you get beyond a certain threshold of understanding and delivery for your data sets. And in my mind, when you modernize an application, you modernize it to be data forward, right? The purpose of modernizing an app is not to make it pretty. It's to make it so that the back-end data of that app is really clean and ready to be ingested directly into your data fabric, right? You want to minimize that transformation that's happening downstream. We're doing transformation because our apps are highly normalized in a very structured database, and we got to denormalize it and then build actual value streams off of that. If I can go straight to value stream delivery off my apps, A+, right? So there's a lot of vectors here that I'm trying to focus on and do it the right way, but then also do it in a way that we're not perpetuating this sort of work cycle that we're in right now in terms of making data ready for AI, right? So all your help would be great to help me structure that and figure out how to do that properly. All right, it is 12 o'clock. Important question, 1 minute question?
1 minute. Hey, I just want to follow up on Captain Thompson's remark. Could you clarify the onboarding process? Because when you described Sentinel and Maverick, is this kind of like a similar arrangement as MDA Shield, for example, where it was a multi-award contract? There's a list of companies that met the minimum requirements to be a provider through an IDIQ with MDA. Is it a similar arrangement that you're talking about with this project? It was just a little unclear to me on how a company with a technology that could contribute to your areas would onboard with you and be able to agilely contract with you all to be able to provide
I can tell you how it's gone so far. Is you had a company with a unique capability that I think Commander Pratt's wanted. They came to us, they presented their idea and whatever. So we brought that to GSA and basically said, hey, can you look into this company, see if we can onboard them, see do they meet the minimum criteria, do they et cetera, et cetera. And I think there's some forms to fill out. They take usually about a 7 to 20 day process. I think the last two took 10 days. So we were able to bring those on. I think there was one company that we couldn't bring on for some reason. I can't recall what it was, but we've had successes so far in bringing on a couple. And then, if you have money, you have requirements. I think one of the unique aspects of that vehicle is the requirements generation process is a little bit more agile than other vehicles that we've had in the past that took a much longer period of time. So that's generally been our experience so far, but it's been very fruitful and it's been fast. And if for some reason that relationship doesn't work out, well, you just don't get paid the following month, and we close the relationship, right? So it's there's a benefit and a drawback, right? It's nice that it's very agile and you can bring people on, but there's a mod cycle of every 30 days. But there's also, if you're not performing, there's a way for us to take it away, right? So benefits and drawbacks, but so far the performance we've had from everybody on the contract has been great. It's only been 5 or 6 months, but since basically October. So that's generally how it's working, and they have some unique capabilities at GSA that we in the Coast Guard don't even have in our own contracting office. So they've been trying this out. It's a new thing. It's part of this new agile contracting service that they're offering. And I think what's most interesting is the mod cycle, is that our ability to bring people on, and if they're not performing, bring them off. That incentive structure is really transformational to making sure we get the types of quality individuals that we need to be successful.
All right, thank you everybody for coming, and enjoy the rest of the conference.